Today we're taking a look at the global ordinance sp9a1 and the sp9a3, the Strybogs. Today we're going to determine whether or not these Strybussies are a Stry bust. Now the A1 is a direct blowback 9 and the A3 is a roller delayed 9. They're pretty neat. Let's get into it. So when Global Ordinance first brought the Strybog sp9a3 and sp9a1 to the market in the United States, they had a little bit of some teething pains, and I actually had a chance to shoot the short-barreled pistol sp9a3 when I visited Gun Thoughts. And if you saw their review and several other creators' reviews of the sp9a3 a few years back, you might have a bad taste of Strybog in your mouth. You know, it's a very interesting taste, but as time went on, I started seeing more and more people talking about the Strybogs, both online in forums and on YouTube videos, seemingly very positively. So Route 66 actually reached out to me, and they've been a big supporter of me for a long time. We're actually doing an event down there in October of this year. They said, hey, we're going to be stocking some Strybogs. We've been really excited to see what they've done, and they've made some improvements over the years, and we want to see if you want to review them. So they sent me out the sp9a3 and the sp9a1. Now these versions are both rifle length with 16-inch barrels in the state of California, legally, with a fixed stock that, with some modification, could go back to folding, a fin grip, and non-flash hider barrels. Now these just have little thread protectors on them. This one has a muzzle brake, which I will not really be showing you in too much detail. That'll be blurred out because I can't quite show that just yet, but you might have seen some sneak peeks in the intro footage. So when they said, hey, do you want a chance to review these? I was actually very excited because I had some bad impressions when they first came out, saw the general vibe of them being positive over the last few years, and it was a cool opportunity for me to shoot some 9mm carbines, the sp9a1 being direct blowback, and the sp9a3 being a roller delayed blowback, which was very exciting when they first came out. So they were exciting. It seemed like they had some rough starts. I wanted to see how they're going now after seeing how poorly they went initially, because they have a lot of great features on them that make them very attractive to potential buyers. So I personally don't have a direct connection, or at the time that I started this review did not have a direct connection with Global Ordinance. However, in doing this review, I did get connected with them and might do some stuff in the future, you know, depending on how well they take criticism and whatnot. But I've honestly been very impressed with these guns, and they seem to be performing very well. I'm glad that I had an opportunity to get them not cherry-picked, because Route 66 ordered 20 of them or something like that, maybe a dozen of each, and they just grabbed one of each and sent it off to me. So we'll do a little bit of a comparison here. One of these is a little bit more pricey, and one of these is a lot nicer shooting, but they're both seemingly good options in my opinion. Now, let's go over some very quick features. So like we said, the sp9a1 is direct blowback, meaning that the only thing keeping the bolt closed is the actual weight of the bolt and the spring in the rear. So when you shoot the gun, it just uses that spring and the inertia to cycle the action and close it, which if you've shot a direct blowback 9, you might know that that can be punchy. Now it's a 9mm carbine. This is not a 30-06, this is not a 308, but it's still not quite as soft as something like an MP5. Now, I'm not gonna say that the roller delayed sp9a3 is as soft shooting as an MP5 because I have not shot one enough and recently enough to really make that comparison. However, it shoots really dang soft, which you might have seen in some of the footage there. Now, both of these, like I said, are the rifle versions with 16-inch barrels. They have an extended handguard on them, which you can see is basically just a bolted-on rail extension, similar to what you might see on some of the like SCAR-type firearms that typically have a short handguard, and then people buy the extended handguards. Personally, I really think the extended handguard adds a lot because since these are both side charging with a handle up here, it's non-reciprocating, but as a 6'2" adult, being able to have that extra real estate up here is very much appreciated, and I imagine if you wanted to mount any sort of lights and accessories, this would be very much appreciated. It's got M-LOK slots all around it, and just generally, I think that this guns in general, handle better for me as a rifle. If you're a smaller person, I can see how that might differ to you. Both of these are fully ambidextrous with ambi mag releases on both sides, ambi safeties on both sides, which since this is a featureless gun in the state of California, I very much appreciate that. The charging handles can be swapped to either side as well, but as a right-handed shooter, I prefer having the charging handle on the same side as my hand, so if for whatever reason I need to rack it, my hand just comes here, and it's very easy to do so. Like I briefly mentioned originally, these are just the standard folding stocks that have been made to be fixed. However, with some slight modifications, can be made folding again. However, in the state of California, we are very limited. There's several options. When they first came to the market, they only came with the Strybog magazine versions, and the aftermarket was providing some alternate lower receivers, which are not a firearm. The upper is the firearm. Some aftermarkets were allowing you to use Scorpion mags because the original Strybog was designed to be a dual feed magazine system where the rounds are stacked side by side and can feed from the right or the left. However, as time went on, they introduced a Glock magazine lower, which for me is superior. I understand the merits of a dual feed magazine, but for me in the state of California, having my 33, 17, 22, and whatnot round magazines with a Glock lower is superior. They're gonna have a variety of configurations using the Glock mags, using the Strybog mags, having them being roller delayed or direct blowback. So there's a variety of options for you depending on what you value the most. So talking about some of the ergos. Now the safety is very good. As a right-hand shooter with a fin grip, it's in a good position. As a left-hand shooter, they're basically identical. They're small enough to where they're not really sitting and getting bumped in the way. It's not uncomfortable to shoot. Some people with ARs, with ambi safeties, they find, oh, it's getting in the way and it's causing a little bit of rubbing. First of all, grow up, but secondly, it is really just a well-made safety that clicks very positively. You can probably hear that. That's some nice little maneuvering there. The bolt lock and bolt catch, we'll get real close. When you pull the bolt back, you can lift up to lock it, drop it there, or come here when you put a magazine in, drop it there. The mag release on the Strybog mags, in my opinion, is superior. Yeah, I feel like sometimes with the mag release, like, my fingers are so long. I can feel like unless you have like little tiny baby hands, like your natural thumb press is like way up here.
Well, also you just want to get a solid hit on the button.
Yeah, so like in order to, like if your finger naturally hits up here, but you need to press here, it's like pulling back and swiping, I think, is sort of the move. But on the lefty side, if you're a lefty, it's a simple push button, so it's kind of like an AR, and that just feels better. But then on the Strybog, show them on that.
Yeah, you can just hit anywhere here.
Because the Strybog, here, pull away a little bit, it might not focus.
You can hit wherever.
Yeah, the Strybog mags are like purpose built for this, where like it's got a good lever on it. on the lefty side, but then on the righty side, it's like a push button, which is like what you want as a correct-handed shooter. Minor nitpick, the magazine release works just fine. The real problem is the bolt catch is pretty stiff. Now, as a right-hand shooter, when you come in, you put the mag in and then press down. It's not quite as natural as a AR-15 ping pong paddle type of bolt catch, where you can't really show you the other side of this gun for various reasons, but when you come here, can't show you the other side, sorry. When you come here, you put a magazine in, press in, it's very ergonomic, it's very nice. We're all used to that. If you own firearms and rifles, chances are you own an AR-15 and you're familiar with how that works. The Strybog bolt catch, dropping it isn't the easiest at times, but I think that'll wear in over time. It got a little bit easier as I got through the round count, which I'll talk about as far as reliability. So as time goes on, I think that'll get easier and easier and easier, but I'm being very, very nitpicky. The overall ergos are pretty good. The stocks are comfortable enough. They're a fixed stock. And for me as a 6 foot tall person, it fits perfectly here and is in a good position. Having this slight little bit of curve down really lends it to having lower mounted optics, which I really like, because on this, I'm not gonna go with like a magnified optic on a 9mm. It just kind of isn't really how I would set up a pistol caliber carbine, but it allows me to have a really good cheek weld with a low mount, which means lower height over bore, which means less ballistics point of aim, point of impact shift. But that's kind of not really the most critical thing with a 9mm, where you're probably not shooting out to 100 yards. Now, I did shoot at like 120, 130 yards, and I was having no problems hitting steel. I'm talking like, you know, and mini C-zone size steel at that distance. And it wasn't the most difficult thing in the world. You aim a little bit high, that's it. The groupings that I was getting out of these when it comes to accuracy was I zeroed it at 25 and I was getting maybe 4-inch groups, and that was with terrible ammunition. I used a variety of 9mm ammo, whether it was defensive loads. I think I had some 115 Blazer jacketed hollow points or PMC bronze jacketed hollow points. Those fired fine. I had some 124 grain HSTs. Those shot fine. I had some Norma 108 grain. Those shot fine. But what I zeroed it and shot it and like sighted it in with was standard 115 grain FMJs. And those did shoot pretty well. I'm talking, I think like 3-inch groups at 50 yards when I initially sighted it in at 25. So not bad. I'm really not expecting a whole lot out of 9mm that's not intended to be match ammunition. I'm sure you could get better groups. First of all, if you're a better shooter than me, I'm not the most precision shooter oriented person. So accuracy, if I could hit an A-zone steel at 50, I'm good. If I can reliably hit an A-zone steel at 100 standing, I'm good with that. So they performed as good as I can expect, as good as I want them to. I'm not really sure of many PCC competitions where someone is shooting a 9mm outside of 100. If I'm wrong, let me know, and maybe I'll go out and really try to push these things to their absolute limits distance-wise, but for me, no problem with that. So let's talk about reliability. Now, if you've seen some of my recent reviews, I like to really get the guns hot, and I like to shoot a lot of rounds out of these guns, which is why I'm thankful to have an ammo sponsor, Last Shot AZ. If you use code Reno, over $250, you'll save on shipping or something like that. But they support me, and that subsidizes some of the cost that goes into this. So out of the direct blowback, I shot 700 rounds with, I think, 350-ish or 300 on the first day and about 400 or 350 split up over 2 days. I shot those as fast as I could get through 3 of the 10-round mags. So I would load 3 10-round mags, shoot them, load 3 10-round mags, shoot them, load 3 10-round mags, shoot them. I got this gun very hot and had no issues. The reason I was pushing these guns so hard and getting them so hot was because I wanted to really test them, because the original experience that I had with the Strybog sp9a3 was bad. And a lot of people are probably going to be concerned about reliability, since the reputation they earned early on back in like 2020 is not good. However, as the generations have improved over time, it seems like they might have redeemed themselves. I have not seen people having issues with current production Strybog A1 and A3s. With the sp9a3, the roller delayed, I actually got this gun so hot that it could barely be touched. There's a few points on this gun, specifically down here by the handguard near the mag well, that gets pretty hot. Oh God, the gun gets real hot, like right here on the underside. Not nearly as hot here, not nearly as hot there, but like right here, I think that's like somewhere where the barrel like connects. That gets hot. I got the gun so hot that the optic was getting warm to the touch, like I could barely touch it without the heat around it getting warm on my hand. I think I shot 650 rounds the first day with a variety of range ammunition and then a bunch of defensive ammo. I did not have a single issue. Now, I'm going to caveat that I acquired some really cheap brass ammo. It was some Blazer brass, and I was having a problem with the ammunition. Some of the rounds were not properly seated in the brass, and I would find those rounds while I was loading them in, and I would say, nope, not shooting that. But some of them I think were managing to get into it, because when I was shooting that, I had a few rounds that when they would go into the chamber, they wouldn't chamber all the way because they were pressed into the brass awkwardly, causing some of the copper jacketing to have been pressed up over the brass, causing it to not load into the chamber. I shot some other ammo after that, did not have any issues. It was just that the Blazer brass that I happened to acquire, I got a bad batch, I guess. I'm gonna keep shooting it. I'm just gonna accept that when I shoot that out of my guns, that it might blow up and kill me. I also had a few problems with the magazines for the Glock. I have a few Glock mags in my inventory that I know don't lock back reliably in my Glocks. They've had issues in some other PCCs that I've shot. And with the Glock mag sp9a3, I was able to identify a few magazines before even shooting that were not locking back. I was basically dry firing with each one of my magazines, and I found 4 or 5 mags that 2 of them were Magpul mags and the other 2 or 3 were Glock OEM mags. I found a few mags that weren't locking back, unloaded, dry firing. I took those mags out to the range, and I tried to load one round in, shoot it, see if it would lock back, and it was like 50-50 on whether or not those magazines would lock it back. But out of all the other, 30 mags that I brought that day, no issues whatsoever. Nothing that I can attribute to the gun. The sp9a3 has about 1,300 rounds through it, and it was split pretty much down the middle between the 2 days that I was shooting these. I got this gun as hot as I could get it without burning my hands. I got it so hot that I was having to wear gloves, which on a 9mm carbine is not super normal for most people, probably not something you're gonna run into. I really doubt that the average person is shooting 650 rounds over the course of an hour through one of these guns. If you are, bring gloves, but I did not have any issues with it. I know some people have talked about swapping out the lockers for the roller delay system on the sp9a3. I didn't find a need to do that because the guns worked, and they worked with cheap ammo, they worked with hot loaded defensive ammo, they worked with really lightweight projectile defensive ammo. All in all, these guns have been perfectly reliable, barring magazine issues, which I identified and sourced down to those specific magazines, and ammo issues, which it was some pretty bad ammo that I got a bad batch, I guess, which is unfortunate for me. So when it comes to shootability, we have 2 very different methods of shooting 9mm. We have a direct blowback and we have a roller delayed. Direct blowback, every direct blowback 9mm that you get is gonna have a bit of a punchy recoil. You can do some things, like I've watched a YouTube channel, Blowback 9, that he specializes in AR9s. You can do some stuff to soften out AR, but on the Strybog, you're kind of stuck with it the way it is. Shooting it, the dot moves a lot more and it moves kind of quickly. It comes back to where you were aiming pretty quick, but it's just overall a little bit more of a punchy, jerky motion. Shooting the sp9a3, it was an absolute joy. I really, really, really enjoyed shooting the sp9a3. And if I had to make a recommendation, spring for the delayed roller delayed blowback system. It's only a little bit more money and it is just so much better. I don't think I will ever enjoy shooting a direct blowback 9mm again after shooting the sp9a3. It's just a superior system, and if you haven't had the opportunity to shoot a 9mm carbine that is some sort of delayed blowback system, you absolutely have to. Or maybe don't. Maybe don't ever do it so you never experience what it's really like to shoot a just pleasurable 9mm carbine experience. It is just better in every way. The recoil is softer, smoother. I can shoot it faster. I can shoot it more accurately at speed. It's just less of a violent system. I think that this gun, the sp9a3, is going to be the rifle that I bring out to have new shooters experience because it's just so damn fun. If I had to make a recommendation, get the sp9a3 that takes Glock magazines. If you're more balling on a budget, the sp9a1 is fine, but the sp9a3 that takes Glock mags, absolute joy to shoot. I love shooting this thing. It's so much fun. It really did spoil me. So the bottom line is this. If you are in the market for a 9mm PCC, I think the Strybogs have honestly redeemed themselves. I think that it's very clear that they had a bad first outing. I don't think that Global Ordinance should have brought them to the market when they did, because it was clear that they were not ready. But now, in 2024, the Global Ordinance Strybogs are an absolute joy to shoot. I really like them a lot. I think they're very competitive on the market, and if you're in the state of California, having the access to these now is going to be something that I'm very happy about. I hope that you found something about this informative. I hope this maybe changed your mind about the Strybog, because for me, I went into this expecting to hate it, and I actually really enjoyed myself. I've shot a lot of guns recently on this channel. Some of them I've really enjoyed, some of them I haven't, but I think it's been a while since I've had as much fun as I did shooting these two guns, and specifically having shot the sp9a3. It made me really enjoy the process again, and I'm thankful to everyone that supports me. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.
It feels like the difference between like a race gun and like a...
Yeah. It's like the perfect way to...
It's like a fine-tuned gun versus like just a
your
gun
overgassed carbine AR versus like, here's this
it is a little tuned, it's got the brake and stuff, but
I mean,
I think it's just the difference between the action.
And like what I noticed when I was first shooting them was like, they both have like a good amount of dot bounce, like, but this one comes back really simply. I felt like when I was shooting the direct blowback, it was like fucking like this huge like sweeping arc. Like it was like the direct blowback one I felt like was like whoa, 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 and then like it was like bouncing all over the place and then coming back, whereas this one was like boom, 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 which